It's something my wife's taught me is you're a better you when you work on you. You're better to be around. You're easier to be around. Everyone loves you more when you're in a better place. So do what you need to do to be in a better place. So be selfish so that you can be selfless. People say now, what do you define as success? That's my success triangle. Health is at the top, non-negotiable. And then the bottom two axes is time and money. Enough time and money to do what you want when you want. And if you achieve those three things, you are super successful. And it doesn't matter whether you're driving no car or driving Ferraris. If you're happy and you're comfortable, it doesn't matter whether you own a plane or you don't fly at all. Like my parents, they're 88 and 80, right? So they're quite healthy when you look at their age. They've had enough money and they've never owned more than one property, enough money to do what they want, what they want. Dad doesn't want to go overseas. He hasn't been back overseas since he migrated here in the 60s. Mum's been overseas 3 or 4 times. And time, enough time to do what you want. If you play golf, you need more time than somebody who plays tennis. So it's relative to you. So key takeaway for the listeners is really draw that triangle. Make sure your health is in order up the top. It's not negotiable. And then what is the amount of time and money that you need to do what you want when you want? And when you achieve those three things, then to me, you're super successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really shifting your mindset around that as well. I lost 60 kilos back in 2020, just after COVID. And so I know that journey, and obviously I've gone through a journey of burnout and everything like that. So it does shift your mind to think what is most important. And I'm actually really grateful that I've gone through the journey that I've gone, because I wouldn't have learned what I know now, and I wouldn't have the different mindset that I do now, that I had linked to my ego, to my self-worth. I thought my identity was a real estate agent and business owner and a community leader. That was hard to leave. But once I pushed through that, I went, actually, I'm not those things. Yes, that's part of me, but that's not who I am.
Yeah. What was your trigger? What was that?
My trigger was just I was burnt out. I remember sitting on the couch and I just didn't feel right in early 2018, and I brain fog. I was forgetting appointments, all those kind of things, and then I struggled for a couple of years. And I tell my story around going to the doctor, getting blood tests, getting other tests, and them saying, "Oh, you're fine." So then I went more into a holistic side of things, so naturopath and some kind of holistic elements. And then over time, I got good psychologist, good GP, and good psychiatrist, and it all helps, right? It's not one thing; it's kind of all little things. But at the end of the day, I think having the focus. Probably 2 years ago, I want to be me. I'm not feeling like I can be me. So I wanted to be me. I actually had been kind of molded into how I should think, how I should act, what I should do. And I'm like, hang on, no, I've got control here. I can take the action to be the person that I want to be. The hardest thing with that, and you'd know this as well, Phil, is that when you start taking actions towards being the person that you want to be, that makes a lot of other people very uncomfortable.
It certainly does. You learn very quickly who's loyal to you or who's loyal to the need of you. And you've hit it on the head, Steve. You really do, because there's 3 types of self. There's self-care, there's selfless, selfish, and what you want, the one in the middle, is self-care. You want that balance and harmony of selfless and selfish. It's not selfish to be selfish. And that's why the word self-care, comes into play. And that's so important. It's, because it's that balance of when do you give yourself to others and when do you retreat back and say it's me time and what I need to do. And everybody needs to do more of that without feeling guilty. And unfortunately, a lot of people do feel guilty when they're being selfish. But I tell you, it's something my wife's taught me is you're a better you when you work on you. You're better to be around. You're easier to be around. Everyone loves you more, being obviously her, the kids, when you're in a better place. So do what you need to do to be in a better place. So be selfish so that you can be selfless. And of course, that's what we call self-care. And I mean, listeners need to really understand that and go, well, if you're not feeling at the top of the best of what you are, there's a good chance that you're not being selfish enough. You're not taking that time to self-care. And it is important.
Yep. And we check in. I talk about, we check in, like a car, right? We take our car to a regular service. It comes up, you've got to service it. You ring up, you book it, or even some of these new cars, you just press a button and it books it for you. But we don't do that on ourselves, so we check in on our businesses and our car and these kind of things. But then most people, especially in the corporate world and as business owners and leaders, we don't actually check in on ourselves. So I say one thing, if you have not, and I talk to in workshops and when I'm talking to business leaders, I say, when was the last time you went and had a full medical, right? You should have one at least every 12 months, and get it, work out what's not good, what's not right, because sometimes you can be feeling not great, and we wear it like a badge of honor, right? Oh, we're stressed, we're tired. It's just part of being successful. It's part of the daily grind. But sometimes, and I'm going to interview my naturopath in the next few weeks, and we talk about sometimes you can be low in vitamin D, or you can be low in iron, or there can be just little things in your gut microbiome that are affecting the way you feel, right? So, and if you can make these little changes, then that brings you into a point of being able to be the best that you can be. And we should all be striving. Now, we'll all die, trying to be the best that we can be, right? Because you grow, right? So I can be the best that I can be today, but that's different to tomorrow, and that's different to next year, and that's different to 10 years. When people say, oh, you've changed. Well, did you want me to stay the same? No,
well, that's why
changed.
I like the word evolution. We've evolved, right? Because change has that connotation. And it's funny you say that, because that's one of my favorite taglines is be the best you can be. Not somebody else, be the best you can be. But yeah, evolution is the word rather than change, because I don't know, for some reason people seem to get it better. But I've evolved, it seems to really sum that change word up. And we should all be evolving. We should be. You made a great point. If you're not better tomorrow than today, or if you're not better next 3 months than what you are today, and sometimes being better means you've got to go 2 steps back to go 10 steps forward. And I say that to people, it's okay to go backwards as long as you're not constantly going backwards. You can't jump in a car and keep reversing because you're going to crash. But you've got to certainly reverse at some time, and which means you've got to go backwards to go forwards. And I love analogies, especially being a strategic marketer. I use analogies all the time. Don't spend the whole day looking in a revision mirror. Look at the front. We've all got those friends, well, hopefully not friends, but more acquaintances, because we don't let them get too close, that are constantly talking about yesterday or last year or the year before. And that's great. Just don't do it constantly. At some point you've got to switch modes and go, well, what's tomorrow? What's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months looks like? So important, to strive forward. And I think that's where the whole concept is. You've got to have a purpose. You've got to have a purpose or an outcome or a goal. Call it whatever you want. I like the word purpose rather than a goal or outcome, because it's definitive. The word outcome is definitive. Purpose is definitive. And people don't understand. It's conversations, and I said this before about meaningful conversations. We have 60 to 80,000 conversations a day. If you own a business, you're probably hitting over 100,000 conversations a day with yourself in your head. And that's why the logic behind, and I'm a logic person, I love logic, why you should be talking to yourself positively. Not the woo-woo stuff, or you want it, you can have it, because that's bullshit. You can't have everything you want, right? Like, you can't go walk in and just take anything you want. I can't go down a Ferrari or Lamborghini and jump in a car and say, thank you, it's mine. It's about logic. It's about thinking, well, if I'm not having positive conversations, mostly with myself, I'm going to be negative. And Dr. Joe Dispenza is a great resource that I love. Quantum physics meets, neuroscience, and he talks about, you get into a bad mood, and if you don't deal with that bad mood, it becomes a personality, it becomes a mindset, right? It morphs from a bloody mood into a temperament, and then the temperament, if you don't deal with it, becomes a bloody mood, and then the mood becomes your personality, and it just starts to escalate. So what started as being in a bad mood, it just keeps getting worse till it gets to, oh, that's your personality, and you never want to get to that stage. You don't want people saying, oh, that person's always angry, they're walking around, they're abrupt, they're rude, they're anxious. We're all going to be bad mood, anxious, worried, but make it, deal with it. When it comes, deal with it, and then move on. Don't let it become your personality. And I'm sure we've all got people in our lives that we could point out and go, yep, that person's been in a bad mood for far too long, that it's now their personality. But that's the trickery behind mindset and evolving and understanding that it's okay to fall over. Pick yourself up. Hey, riding a bike. I love two analogies, riding a bike and driving a car. We all remember when we learned to drive, and we all remember when we learned to ride a bike. Why? Because no one could do it for us. They could advise us, they could guide us, they could help us, they could give us resources. But nobody can ride the bike for you. No one can drive the car for you. To drive a car, you have to drive it. To ride a bike, you have to ride it. And there's a process behind it. So I think we just need to remember that. I say to my kids, no one starts perfect. You don't start playing soccer and you're brilliant at it, son. You got to learn. You got to crawl. You got to walk. You got to jog. So go through the process. No one starts perfect. No one starts perfect as a business owner. It's having that mindset to say, I'm open to learning. I'm open to do things. And let's face it, just like I would make a good politician, I like advising, I like talking, I like stirring up what needs to happen when they're doing good things, when they're not doing good things. I mean, I see myself on that outside being more powerful than in politics. I couldn't be on show 24/7. I certainly couldn't do what they do. That's not me. It's not who I am, but I know that. I can tell you what I'm good at. I can tell you what I'm not good at. It's not me. Like I said, I can't be a lawyer because I read too quickly and I skim read. So I know that I couldn't be a lawyer because I don't have the attention to detail that need to as a lawyer. And there's no shame in that. Whereas people are too worried to not talk about what they're not good at. I'm more than happy to talk about what I'm not good at. I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. So, it comes back down to mindset. Bringing it right back down is mindset and being comfortable in who you are. And not everybody has to like you. As you don't see from your journey, as you said before, you lose the weight, you learn who's there for you, you learn who's not there for you when you start to become, more selfish and self-care. But that's okay. Hey.
I love the quote that says, you want everyone to like you, but you don't even like everyone.
Yeah, correct. And you're not going to,
No.
And okay. I always say there's a terminology called affectionate detachment. When you don't finding yourself evolving away, you can't, and friendships evolve too, where you go, hey, I used to hang around this person more. And no, I'd say you affectionately detach. I don't have to argue with someone to detach from them, and that way there's no awkwardness. I can still say hello when I see them. And instead of seeing them every day, you see them once a week, or instead of once a week, you see them once a month, or instead of once a month, you see them once a year. Doesn't mean that you don't have an affection for them. It's just different. And you detach affectionately rather than have an argument or feel like you have to have an argument, or worse, feel like you have to have a full-on friendship when it's not being authentic. And that's one of my key words, and my number one value is authenticity. Keep things authentic.